español, por favor elijan su idioma preferido. También les pido que tengan en mente su velocidad y su claridad, tomen su tiempo con sus palabras y si están teniendo algún problema con la interpretación, me pueden mandar un mensaje por el chat y ahí con mucho gusto les ayudo. Me parece que será todo y ya podemos comenzar. Gracias. I think that is everything. We can get started. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Okay. Hey everyone, thank you so much for joining and welcome to the second public meeting for the La Alma-Lincoln Park Master Plan. We're also hosting a screening at the La Alma Rec Center for those who prefer to come together to watch this online meeting. So everyone wave hello to the folks in the Rec Center room. I'm Elaine Limmer, and I'm the planner for the Downtown Parks District, which includes La Alma-Lincoln Park. So really happy to be here with you. Overall, the project is led by Denver Parks and Recreation, and the team working on this project includes leaders Happy Haynes and Kathy Levesque, Urban Ecology Supervisor Jessica Anderson. Jessica, if you want to say hi in the chat. Community Engagement Lead Laura Morales, who's over there in the Rec Center room, and Jenna Harris. Jenna, if you want to say hi and introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. My name's Jenna Harris. I'm the Downtown Parks Program Manager. I'm so excited to be here with you all tonight and happy to help answer any questions at the end as part of the Q&A.
Livable City Studio is our lead consultant for planning and design, and you'll hear from those team members as we kind of go through the rest of the presentation tonight. And we recognize paying really close attention to the existing trees and ecological features is critically important. So the team is also bolstered by Ellie, who comes from an ecology consultant called Matrix. And then most importantly, our project team is joined by two community connectors, Judah and Christy. They're neighborhood residents working really hard with us to make sure all the voices in the neighborhood are listened to and heard in this process. So I'm going to invite Judah and Christy to introduce themselves and share why they were interested in being a connector.
Wow, what a great turnout. Thanks for coming, everyone. Well, it was a no-brainer when they were looking for a community connector to at least apply for it, because what greater way to have an impact for generations to come. I have two kids and we all live in the neighborhood and love this neighborhood. We believe it is the hidden gem of Denver. And I have been blown away, I just want to say, working with this incredible team. I want to give a shout out to Elaine, Laura. I mean, these people really care about our neighborhood. And they're like, hey, this is a blank slate. What you guys want, and we want to hear your voice. And we want your innovation. And then the team at Livable Cities, Meredith, Chelsea, they're just doing such a phenomenal job. And they really do want to hear from you guys. So thank you for being here. Everyone that showed up, you get, it's like wet cement. You get to put your hand in the wet cement today. And so this is pretty incredible. So look forward to getting to meet. I know a lot of you on the call, and look forward to getting to know more of you. But I just want to give a shout out to this incredible team that loves our neighborhood, cares about it, wants to preserve its heritage while build some new and innovative things that are going to make our park even more accessible and even better. And so I'm stoked on it. So thanks for having me.
Hi, my name is Christy Shambara, and I've worked at the Rec Center for many years and live in this neighborhood. And I'm excited for this project and to be part of this project because I want to be able to hear the voices of all the people that have been here and preserve the culture around this neighborhood. It's very rich in culture, and bring in the new people that have just moved in and hear their ideas of how we can have a safe, nice park for everybody. And, have a nice neighborhood where we all can just get along and hang out. And I'm glad you guys all came and can voice your opinions on what you like, because I want to make sure everybody gets a say in how our park turns out.
Thanks so much, Christy and Judah. And in addition to Judah and Christy, we are super grateful to the many community leaders passionate about the Alma-Lincoln neighborhood who've been really collaborating with us in this park process, including Jesus Rodriguez from Youth on Record, And I'd love to invite him to kick off the meeting for us by leading us in a land acknowledgement.
Cool, awesome. Thank you all for being here with us today. My name is Jesus Rodriguez. I've been a resident at La Alma Lincoln Park neighborhood for the past 8 years, 7 of which I've been working with a music-based nonprofit organization called Youth on Record as a programs coordinator. Through that, I've been mentoring youth and supporting their creative journeys at our youth media studio, which is located on 10th and Navajo in the neighborhood. If you want to know more about it, please let me know. I'll put my email in the chat in a bit. But I'm here to do a land acknowledgement. Thank you to City Council and the Denver American Indian Commission for creating this acknowledgement and allowing Denver Parks and Recreation to use it. Denver Parks and Recreation honors and acknowledges that the land on which we reside is the traditional territory of the Ute, Cheyenne, and Arapaho peoples. We also recognize the 48 contemporary tribal nations that are historically tied to the lands that make up the state of Colorado. We honor elders past, present, and future, and those who have stewarded this land throughout generations. We also recognize that government, academic, and cultural institutes were founded upon and continue to enact exclusions and erasures of Indigenous peoples. May this acknowledgement demonstrate a commitment to working to dismantle ongoing legacies of oppression and inequities and recognize the current and future contributions of Indigenous communities in Denver. Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right, so tonight we're going to start off by providing a recap of what we've done and heard so far in this process. And then we'll share a set of guiding principles that summarizes the community feedback and priorities we're hearing. And then to spend a majority of our time kind of having a conversation, sharing and getting your input on 3 concept options for the park's design. To give just a brief overview of the project scope and schedule, broadly, we're at the end of the second of 4 phases of the master plan process. So the first phase, which we'll recap in more detail, was about learning as much as we could about the existing park and listening to the community about what people love and would like to see in the future. We took all of those conversations and analysis and developed 3 ideas for what the park looked like. And this meeting tonight is kind of the kickoff of taking these ideas and bringing them out to the neighborhood to gather feedback, which is what we'll be doing for the next month or so. And then the next public meeting will be in person in early summer, where we take the best of the 3 options based on what we're hearing and combine those into one sort of 4th option or final plan that we bring back out before it's documented. So big picture, by the end of this summer, we'll have what we call a master plan document, which will capture the community vision and guide future decisions for detailed design work and construction that will happen in the park. This particular process is not considering changes to the pool, the rec center building, or the neighborhood house that exists there today. So all of those will remain in their current locations. And then as a parallel, right now, you're probably seeing construction out there with the fences around the pool. The pool and concrete area immediately surrounding the pool are undergoing repairs, including repairs to the concrete deck and regular maintenance of the pool finish. So that's all underway. And when the construction's completed, nothing will have changed. It'll all have the same great features as before. Nothing's being removed as part of that renovation or construction. And the reopening date for the pool will be announced publicly as soon as we have sort of confirmed clarity on when all of that will be completed. Now I'll pass it off to Meredith from the Livable team to walk us through the phase 1 and what we've learned.
Great, thanks, Elaine. Hello, everyone. It's great to be here tonight and have so many people virtually and in person. As Elaine mentioned, we're gonna walk through, I'm gonna go through a little bit of background for those of you that maybe weren't able to attend the first open house we had. We'll go through a little background. We'll then get into the concepts. And the one thing we haven't mentioned is we are going to be doing some Zoom polling tonight. So for those that are virtual, we're going to do some polls that'll pop up, trying to get some feedback on the various concepts. And for those of you that are at the rec center, we have people there obviously to gather that feedback, but also the survey that has similar questions. And so we're definitely capturing the feedback for, you know, in person at the rec center, but we'll do Zoom polling for those that are virtual. So diving in, I think most of you are probably very familiar with just the context of the park, but just a few things to kind of note as we're looking, you know, where the park fits in more broadly. And one important piece is the proposed 5280 trail that runs along the edge of Mariposa there. You can see the little cursor potentially kind of highlighting that location. Obviously we have Sunken Gardens Park, yeah. Nearby West High School, we have Greenlee Elementary, and you know, just obviously embedded within the Alma-Lincoln Park neighborhood. As part of some of our initial work when we were really doing background and analysis, we did a lot of kind of research and understanding of just the historic context of the neighborhood. And we have also had a stakeholder advisory committee that's, you know, provided some more detailed input on this as well. That's been really helpful. And so I know you can't read this and I'm not going to go through each and every element, but really you know, we looked at the history starting with the indigenous settlements, you know, moving into the homestead, and then, you know, how the kind of redlining, the Denver Housing Authority, public housing coming in, the neighborhood house, the murals, you know, the West High blowout and the Chicano movement, and then obviously where we are today. And if you want to go to the next slide, just kind of highlight a few of these elements. You know, as we are moving through our concepts and we're really thinking about the history of the park and the neighborhood and how it's kind of influencing and contributing to what we're doing today. So obviously the indigenous settlements, you know, happened early on, and then in 1885, you know, that is an image in the bottom left of the park, and this was one of the city's oldest parks. That's an irrigation ditch that actually ran through the park. The city's first heated pool was built in the park in the 1920s. And then in the middle there, you can see the murals from Emmanuel Martinez, the original one up top, and obviously the one that's today on the rec center. Emmanuel, I think I may have seen you on the call, so welcome. And then more recently in 2021, the historic cultural district was designated, and part of that, you can see the boundary there in orange on the right. The park is included in that boundary as well. So related to the historic cultural district, this is one of two in Denver. And so we have been looking at some of the contributing features and really understanding how not only they contribute to the park, but obviously they're going to, you know, remain in the park. So these four elements you'll hear us talk about. One is the stone retaining wall, which is on the western edge along Osage, that really beautiful wall. The amphitheater was completed in 1926. The neighborhood house also done in 1926. And then the rec center and the mural is another contributing feature. Just wanted to note a few things about kind of urban ecology. So another important piece is we're you know, investigating these concepts and refining into a preferred one. Really following this meeting, we're always thinking about kind of resiliency and water conservation. And so, you know, the park is all bluegrass today, so there's certainly opportunity maybe in some key locations to think about native grasses and pollinators that require less water. There's a beautiful tree canopy today with a lot of, you know, existing mature trees. And a lot of them are in very good condition. So part of our work is really thinking about the succession planning for the trees, right? Preserving and maintaining trees, but also thinking about the future. And so this is a plan that shows kind of the existing park elements. Let me explain this a little bit. You know, with so many features and the historic features that are there today and the pool that exists, we have some components in the park that are that we can't move, that really must remain in the exact location that they are. And so those are shown in red here, the pool, the rec center, the neighborhood house, and then also that stone wall along Osage. The items in yellow are those that must remain in the park, but their location is flexible. And so, you know, one that we have highlighted here is the amphitheater. Obviously, it must remain, but we have explored some options, there's some different location options in the concepts, and we'd love to get feedback from you all tonight. Mixed use fields also we know are highly utilized and will be remaining. And then those green elements, some of the other program elements, the tennis courts, baseball, playground, basketball, fitness areas, they're a little bit more open, meaning we've explored different locations within the concepts, and some of the concepts have actually taken some of those ideas, you know, and those programmatic elements out. And the idea here is that we're exploring options and getting feedback from you all on your preferences. This graphic here shows really kind of a, you know, opportunities and constraints are really kind of synthesizing some of what we've heard to date. And I'm just going to highlight a few things here. You know, the red, kind of pinkish red dots that you can see on here are areas that we heard people had concerns about safety. And that was something we heard in the first public meeting and on the survey. And these are kind of those generalized locations that we heard were more concerning. The areas with kind of the hatch or the lines across them have limited visibility, and some of them are a bit underutilized spaces. We also have the layer of trees on here, which are areas we are you know, working in very carefully to really minimize the impact on trees. So with that, Chelsea's going to go through the engagement from the last public meeting in the survey.
Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for being here again. My name is Chelsea with Livable City Studio. I'll be sharing a bit about our community engagement up to this point. So this slide here captures the variety of events and outreach that has been done up to today. And as we've been really looking to hear from the community what they want the park to look like in the future. Thus far, we've worked with community partners to spread the word. We would love any of your help as we continue in the process. So if that's something you're interested in, please feel free to put your name and contact information into the chat if you're able to help spread the word. Always looking for more help. But as we have been moving through the process, we had heard from about just over 200 respondents from our survey, and we were able to connect with about 40 people at the first open house, which has been great. And a few key themes emerged. We've heard a desire to connect to the rich cultural history and the park's activist roots related to the Chicano movement, a lot of pride and love for that La Alma mural by Manuel Martinez, and a desire for even more public art. And we did hear a really strong desire for representation for Chicano culture, but also beyond, and reflections for wanting to highlight the neighborhood's diverse roots as a melting pot, immigrant community, and the park's indigenous past. We also heard a general desire for the park to become safer for all ages and families, with feedback that some areas like the historic amphitheater, that while they are well loved, they can feel a bit unsafe. And lastly, we did hear some excitement around some future initiatives like connections to that 5280 trail, which Meredith mentioned, and support for some of the future use themes we presented in our survey, which we'll cover in the next couple of slides here. And getting into an overview of the survey, we wanted to share a snapshot of who took the survey. Primarily white or Caucasian respondents, with about 68 Hispanic, Latino, or Spanish origin respondents. And according to 2017 data, that is a really similar demographic to who's living in the neighborhood today. In terms of income, we had a mix, with most respondents being either in the $150,000 or more range or in the $50,000 to $100,000 range in terms of annual income. And for age, we did hear from a variety of ages, with most of the ages being adults aged between 19 to 44. So the first thing we really wanted to hear about is what's currently getting used in the park today. So these were the top 4 amenities chosen in the survey, with walking paths being the top choice there. We inquired about feeling unsafe or uncomfortable in the park, and 132 of the 200 responses for this question chose either yes sometimes or yes often, with some feedback indicating that these safety concerns are related to both poor lighting and to violence. And getting into some future aspirations, we shared 4 total future themes in the survey. So we call these active and adventurous, celebrating Latino culture, all about community and nature in the city. And there was overall support for all 4 of these, with a slight preference towards all about community and nature in the city. We'll just share a couple elements that popped out from each of those. Starting with active and adventurous, we saw support for a fitness loop, a bouldering climbing element, and a zip line. Within this theme, we saw support for folk art sculptures, cultural play elements, and vibrant cultural patterns and materiality. Related to the all about community theme, we saw excitement for improvements to the amphitheater, a multi-use trail adjacent to the park, and for interactive art. And lastly, with nature in the city, we saw support for an urban forest grove, a potential water feature, and pollinator gardens. With that, I'll pass it off to Meredith to introduce our guiding principles and how we started to use all that feedback to develop the 3 design concepts we'll share today.
Great. Yeah, so you'll see some of those themes Chelsea just mentioned, related to the different types of uses in the concepts that we'll share in a second. But first, I want to just highlight the guiding principles that are really just doing just that, guiding our work. And this is really based off the input we've gathered and what the community is saying and sharing with us. And the first one is really that this park needs to be the neighborhood soul, to reinvigorate it and create a safe and comfortable park for families and everybody, providing opportunities for youth and introducing new features that foster community connection, especially with families and kind of that multi-generational aspect. The second component we are calling growing from deep roots. So this is really building on the park's long history by honoring the significance in the Chicano movement and celebrating the diverse stories of the people who consider the park their home. Together with nature is about providing opportunities to experience nature in the city, creating new features that kind of show off or highlight the Colorado landscape and continue this park really as an urban oasis, right? That tree canopy is so strong and something we hear about from everyone all the time. And then last but not least, the everyday and the special day. Making sure that the park, that we're creating a distinct neighborhood park that is part of daily life, but it's also where people come together, providing features to host community events, and incorporating unique culture and recreational elements that inspire visitors. So everything you'll see tonight, really, these were those principles that have guided the work and will continue to. So there are always some questions about, well, you're going to show us 3 options tonight. What's been decided? When are you going to decide? So let me just tell you about kind of how we work through a process like this. So tonight we have 3 very different concepts. So we have concept 1, concept 2, and concept 3. They're different approaches to the park. They have different elements within them. And they're intentionally distinct and unique. What we're asking from you all tonight is, what do you like about each one of these concepts? And what do you not like about each one of these concepts, and what's missing? What we do then is we take all of that feedback. We might take, the things you like from concept 1, concept 2, and concept 3 and combine it into a preferred concept, right? So it kind of blends elements from all of them typically, pulling out the most desired elements, and that's how we get to the preferred concept. You'll see that preferred concept later this spring, but tonight we're getting feedback on these three. And so to kind of quickly introduce you, and then Chelsea's going to walk you through the details. Concept one, we're calling the loops. So this is really about adventure and play that's connected by pathways and loops, and has kind of a cultural component within it as well. Concept two is we're calling the ribbon. This is about nature experiences kind of along a flowing art path and spine that has culture within it too. And concept three, the hub, this is about gathering spaces that are centered around a cultural core in the park. So with that, I'll go back to you, Chelsea.
Thanks, Meredith. And great, yes, for each concept, just to give you an overview, we're going to be presenting the cultural big idea. We're going to then share the plan itself and some associated photos to help us describe the concept, and a quick diagram about access and circulation. And we will be pausing at the end of each concept to hear what you like most about each concept through a poll, which Meredith mentioned earlier, and share what you might think is missing about each one as well. So we'll get going with concept one, the loops. This concept emphasizes adventure experiences, opportunities to be active outdoors, and play. The cultural big idea for this concept is to use looping pathways within the park as opportunities to share cultural stories from the park's past, present, and even looking into the future. For example, one loop could share educational signs or art with information about the park's historic role in the Chicano movement, or the park's early history as one of Denver's very first parks, or that historic irrigation ditch. Starting to get into this concept, you'll notice several of the important features remain in place. The historic amphitheater remains along Osage, as well as the baseball field, which just gets a little bit smaller, and the fence gets removed there. The tennis court remains in place with the addition of some pickleball courts, and the existing play area expands to include a larger scale iconic play element. The recreation center remains really an active area within this concept, with a climbing element providing adventure play opportunities and anchoring that plaza by the recreation center entrance. And then a story walk with interpretive art draws people along a path next to the recreation center and through to the historic amphitheater, which is activated by a plaza surrounding it. As I mentioned, the loops could tell cultural stories about the neighborhood and the park, mixing interpretive art installations with learning, like in call out number 4, you can see on the right there. The main loop in the park, the darkest purple line in the center here, this could operate as a walking loop, with each lap being about 0.25 miles. So that's about the size of one loop around a standard track. It's a kind of fitness element. And then the 5280 trail that will run along Mariposa presents a fun opportunity to create these special, vibrant moments of connection, like in call out number 6, as people enter the park from the trail. And lastly, more active adventure elements will anchor the northwest area of the park, with very limited impacts to the beautiful tree canopy there in this corner of the park. This area will become a wavy track, just call out number 7 here. That's a smaller beginner version of a bike pump track, and skate features will expand and move to this area. And then more fitness challenge stations will provide more fun ways for people of all ages to be active within the park. We lastly wanted to highlight how this concept approaches a sense of arrival and circulation. Instead of the main path being a straight north to south kind of linear experience, we've broken the park up into these loops. The main arrival moment remains along 11th and 13th, and an additional arrival is created along the 5280 trail off Mariposa here. And parking is given less priority in this concept, but we are maintaining ADA spots here to give access to the back of the recreation center. I'll let Meredith run through a couple polling questions.
Yeah, so we want to ask you all some questions. So what we want to know is, what do you like most about this concept? So I'm going to read through the options here to make sure we get the interpretation. So the first is looping walking paths highlighting cultural stories through artwork and signage. The second is amphitheater staying in its current location. The third is story walk connecting entry plaza with amphitheater. Then baseball staying in current location and getting slightly smaller. The next is expanded playground and basketball court near 11th Avenue. Next is north side of the park activated with adventure sports. And then if you have some other thoughts, please put them in chat. So this is an option where you can select multiple. So feel free to select those elements and concepts that you like, or ideas that you like most about this concept. And again, put any other answers in chat. So we'll give you all just a minute. Chelsea, do you want to just flip back to a plan view, if you will? I think it'll be easier for them to look at it. There you go. Perfect. So we'll give you a minute. So yeah, I see some comments coming through chat, so that's great. Active recreation, didn't see any improvements for lighting. So yeah, that's a great, we're gonna ask you what, you know, maybe what's missing. So I'm hearing you're not seeing lighting and safety. I think it's more, right now we're kind of asking about some of the bigger programmatic elements, but that's a great comment. So thanks, Helen. Great. Elaine, if you're running the polls, do you want to close it and share the results?
Having a couple of challenges with being able to run the polls, but we will try to pull up the results.
So Tim, I see your comment about removing the parking lot on the south end of the park. Yes, so that's a good thing to note that yes, we did kind of repurpose that area and made it more of an entry for people instead of a parking lot that's not being used now. And Jesus, I see your comment about the amphitheater needs to stay. So that I'm hearing that is what you like. Enhanced lighting, electricity, and knowledge and easy access for community. Great. Jessica mentions like making the north part of the park, making use of the north part of the park. Bike pump track would be fun for the kids. Great. All right, well, let's keep going. Elaine, I assume it's you're not able to share the results, is that right?
Hi, yeah, feel free to go on to the next question.
Okay, sounds good. So we do want to hear, you know, what do you like? Is there something you like least about this concept or something that's missing? We don't have a polling question for this. Just put anything in chat. I know we already kind of got a few things, but if there's anything else, we'd really like to hear what you like least about this. Okay, I see pickleball was a desirable element. So if there's anything else, feel free to put it. And if you think about it later, you could even just say, you know, I did not like this in concept one. I think the baseball field could go all together. Okay. Well, you will see that in some other concepts. So Chelsea, let's dive into concept 2.
Sounds great. We will get going to the next concept, which we call the ribbon. And the heart of this concept is enhancing a feeling of being immersed in nature while in the city, all along a flowing art path, which connects 11th and 13th through the park. And this trail would feature vibrant art installations and a planted swath next to the art trail that we're calling the green ribbon, sort of like how we have pictured here on the right. The cultural big idea for this concept is that the major flowing art trail through the park would celebrate art installations that would be authentic to the neighborhood and the park's unique story. Getting into this concept, you will notice that some of the big elements have been moved or removed completely. The amphitheater relocates to the entry area along 11th here. And we've been working closely with the historic preservation planners who've informed us that while it is a contributing historic feature and it would be a very costly, careful process, this might be a possibility. So you'll see some explorations of that. And since this concept was all about natural experiences and inspiring a sense of resiliency, we did remove the baseball field in this option to make room for more swaths of native plantings and pollinator gardens. Community gardens replace the existing tennis courts in this concept. An art walk into the park creates a vibrant, fun entry experience off 13th. And the plaza next to the recreation center would feature a dry creek bed, which create nature play experiences for kids. And as I mentioned, the major cultural trail weaves in and out with this green ribbon as pictured in call out number 3 on the right here. So the art along the trail would be really vibrant and interactive. You will notice that the play elements in this concept have shifted to the north end of the park. This would be adventure play focused and featured fun elements that we heard support for in our first phase of engagement, like a zip line. And the play area would even have a treehouse element pictured in call out number 4, which would allow both kids and adults to get up to a higher vantage point and enjoy some of the really beautiful views to the Front Range Mountains that the park provides today. And this adventure play programming could be a great adjacent use for the neighborhood house and their amazing existing youth programming. This concept also works to maintain that tree canopy in this corner of the park and incorporates a nature challenge area, which could mean utilizing ropes or canopy walks to immerse people in those trees. Artistic gateways would anchor the major points of entry for the park, creating an inviting and expressive entry experience. And at the corner of 11th and Mariposa, there's an ethnobotanic educational garden, which could be utilized as a learning opportunity to grow plants once grown by the local native people. And lastly, we wanted to highlight again how this concept approaches arrival and circulation. We've created this flowing trail connecting the north and south areas of the park, and 5280 trail users will be encouraged to enter the park and walk, bike, or roll along that cultural art path as an offshoot to the main trail experience. And parking in this option is slightly expanded to support the community gardens and the recreation center. Now, similarly, Meredith will run you through some questions here.
Yeah, so let's see if the polling works this time.
Yes,
so
I will quickly share the results from the first one.
Perfect.
So people can see.
So it looks like, yeah, the looping walking paths highlighting the cultural stories was the most popular, 52%. Amphitheater staying in its current location at 39%. So, and then I'm seeing other comments coming through chat kind of supporting that. And then everything else is pretty darn similar. So we got the story walk, baseball staying, expanded playground, and the north side of the park activated all, 26 to 32%. That's great. And then, yeah, I saw some others in chat, but that's great feedback. Hearing, we hear you on the looping walking paths and the amphitheater on this one for sure.
Great.
Thanks, Lane. So now shift your mind to concept 2 that you just saw, the spine one that Chelsea went through. And we want to hear what you like most about this one. So the first option, art trail with interactive installations. So that kind of, again, the spine art trail along the park. The relocated amphitheater near 11th Avenue. The third being nature play, adventure play features, and nature challenge course area included near the recreation center and in the north of the park. So kind of in those types of elements in those locations. The fact that the baseball field is removed. So if you like that, check that. Picnic tables, and you can see multiple picnic areas along Mariposa. And then anything else, put it in chat. Helen, I see your comment about the amphitheater and that you do not like it being removed or moved, excuse me. And I saw your comment before. some comments about the community garden. I've seen a few comments about a dog park, so let's get to concept 3. But this one obviously does not have a dog park. Thanks, Rudy. We'll give you all just another few seconds to fill this poll out. And Elaine, as it slows down, maybe we can launch the results. Educational garden. Thanks, Trula. Anna mentions desire for pickleball and climbing. All good feedback. All right, why don't we launch the results and see? Okay. So both at 50%, we have an art trail with interactive installations, and then nature play, adventure play, and nature challenge ideas and kind of activity nodes throughout the park. Looks like 40% said picnic tables along Mariposa, 30% like the baseball removed. We had more kind of other in this one, and there was a lot more coming through chat, and then 23% said they liked the relocated amphitheater near 11th, but I know we're hearing other comments in chat too. Okay, so just, is there anything that, you know, besides anything else that we haven't heard about what you might like least about this concept? So we heard the amphitheater, heard about a little climbing, pickleball, that some of those uses, dog park, not in this one. Anything else that hasn't been already captured in chat, or that you want to kind of elaborate, anyone wants to elaborate on? So some thoughts about art and really what that might look like. That's good. I like the pathway through the center of the park. Maintenance concerns around art. Those are all good thoughts. Okay. Great. Well, thank you all for those comments. I was trying to keep up with them, but I love that you all are actually active in there. So thank you. We will feel free to kind of keep putting stuff in chat, but let's move to concept 3.
Great, so we will get into concept 3 here, which we call the hub. Concept is all about providing spaces for people of all ages and backgrounds to gather, and really trying to provide something for everyone. The cultural big idea for this one is a central cultural core, which lands right in the middle of the park. And starting to get into the concept, you'll notice here some of the big elements have again been relocated. The amphitheater moves to the central cultural core, and the baseball field moves to the corner of 11th and Mariposa, expanding slightly. And this one would have a fence that remains around that. This opens up the central core of the park for more community uses. So the tennis courts remain here and include even more pickleball courts for this concept. The central core includes a larger event space supported by the amphitheater for concerts or markets. And there'd be this major promenade off the 5280 trail along Mariposa with interactive art elements. And the major play elements shift slightly to be right next to the event plaza and pavilion, and they would incorporate some vibrant play elements. Another feature of this concept would be a small event space with some picnic tables to support the pool area. This concept does suggest a dog park, a smaller dog park, to activate the edge along Osage here. And then the entry to the rec center off Mariposa includes some trees with overhead lighting. And a major feature of this concept is a rentable picnic area in this corner of the park, again, working to preserve that tree canopy. But this would allow larger community events like festivals or even weddings to occur here. An event lawn further supports larger events or concerts happening at the pavilion and amphitheater. And the entry off 13th would create a sculpture garden experience, really inviting passerbys to come and explore the unique art and character of the park. And lastly, we wanted to again highlight how this concept approaches arrival and circulation. You'll see another flowing central connection from north to south. And this concept really differs in that the major sense of arrival is created off the 5280 trail on Mariposa, maintaining those major arrivals on 11th and 13th. And parking is provided near the rec center as well in this concept to support those expanded courts and the dog park.
Great. So another set of questions for you all. What do you like most about this third concept? Do you like the central cultural plaza with a new event pavilion and obviously the amphitheater in that location? The second option, active programs like play and basketball near the central cultural plaza. So we're kind of, bringing that activity really central in this concept. Do you like that baseball moves to the corner of 11th and Mariposa? So the baseball, or I saw the comment about softball field moving to 11th and Mariposa. The fourth being relocated amphitheater to the center of the park. The next is promenade with interactive art, or an improved recreation center entrance with trees and overhead lighting. So kind of almost more festival-like in front of the rec center. And if there's other elements you really like about this, put it in chat. Yeah, some comments about the baseball field and the dog park. So, there's some comments previously about the activity, the family-oriented activity around the baseball field. But, I'm hearing some people don't like it moving in this location, and varying thoughts on the dog park. Some people love it, some people don't like it. Liking the tennis and the pickleball combination, kind of the expanded area along Osage there. The comment about liking the amphitheater in the middle. And the focus on the center of the park. Thanks for those comments, everyone. Elaine, why don't we close this and launch the results? I want to see what people said. Okay, great. So 80%, wow, said improved recreation center entrance with trees and overhead lighting. So that little kind of plaza-like experience as an entry to the rec center. That's really helpful feedback. Thank you. 36% central cultural plaza with a new event pavilion. And at 28%, we had the active program, like basketball and play near the central core, the relocated amphitheater, and the interactive promenade with art. So, but yeah, 4% said the baseball field moving. So that's great feedback. Anything that, what do you like least about this concept? Do you want to throw some your feedback in chat if there's anything that hasn't been mentioned? Okay, that's a great comment. I like the trail layout and entry points to this plan and think this would be the best way to get more people into the park. So I'm hearing kind of specifically the entry points and potentially kind of where it is on Mariposa too. Andrew, I know that was your comment. If there's a specific location that really resonates with you, maybe drop that in chat so we can capture that as well. Not seeing a lot of options for kids in this one. There is play. It's not labeled. I think that's probably why. Just to the, yeah, it's kind of being highlighted by the cursor right now. Just to the left of the amphitheater in the drawing. So the intent is that yes, in all of them there is a play area. The character of the play is what's really different. You like least relocating the baseball field. Okay, that's helpful. So hearing, yeah, the connecting north to south path and having a central entryway and promenade from 11th. Yep. Near inner city parish, right? Okay, great. That's helpful clarity. Thank you. Yeah, you like Lee's that there's only one open lawn space and it's important to have open lawn for people in their 20s and 30s. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. This is such good feedback. Really appreciate all the comments you all are adding. Let's go to the next. So what we want to ask is really separate from these concepts, right? We want to just hear from you all what your top preferred active recreation amenities are for the park. And so a number of options we have here, and if you don't see it on the list, again, put it in chat. So again, outside of the concepts that you saw, do you select those that are really kind of your top preferences. So and you can see the images here: wavy track, skate features, court sports. So this is tennis and pickleball, basketball, baseball, fitness and challenge stations, adventure play. So that could be things like, zip lining and climbing boulders, potentially kind of a treehouse associated with that, or nature play, elements that's really about kind of nature and exploration, but intended to be play. Other, dump it in chat. So lawn space. Thank you. Yes, that is a great active amenity that we will certainly have. So we'll give you all a few more, 10 more seconds or so, and then we'll close this and see what the responses are. I'm seeing from the participants that the rec center central field is used for kids sports and feels that it's missing. So I assume that's kind of on the concept 3, that felt like it was missing. Okay, so really kind of making sure that we have those multi-use fields and enough space. So let's look at these results real quick. So let's see what's popping to the top here. So at 59%, we have court sports, so tennis and pickleball. We've got adventure play and basketball coming in at 48%, fitness and challenge stations at 38%, nature play at 41%. Okay, that's great. Good feedback. So yeah, the wavy track was a little bit lower at 14%, baseball at 17%. All right. Let's go to the next question, because we want to also hear from you all what your top preferred, we're calling kind of leisure amenities are for the park. So in contrast to the really active recreation component. So options here: dog park, passive picnic areas, so places to gather and picnic, or rentable picnic areas. So the difference there is passive, meaning like, kind of first come, first serve, anyone can just go there. Rentable, meaning you can obviously get a permit and actually, have an event there and rent the space out. Pollinator gardens, ethnobotanic or educational garden, community garden, small event space, large event space, sculpture garden, or other. So yeah, I see the comments about the kind of open lawn area. I think that, one thing that I shared at the very beginning is that having that open lawn and kind of multi-use field space, it will certainly be in the park. It is definitely a key component that will remain. It will likely be reconfigured to some degree, but I'm hearing and seeing through the chat that really the importance of that and that the flexibility of that space for families and youth and everybody. So Candace, I see your question about sun and shade in the park. We definitely can do those types of studies based on, you know, obviously the tree canopy and the season and time of day. And we do look at that as we are designing, especially we'll get into that more as we're working through our preferred design. But it is important. We have found that, you know, people, especially in the summer heat here, right, they congregate in the shade. So thinking about having the spaces where people gather, having enough shade here, or, you know, in those locations, and then obviously having sun and open areas as well. You know, the other thing about our climate here is that, you know, even putting in new trees, right, we have beautiful old canopy of trees, and so great area for kind of picnic and gathering. Any kind of new trees that may go into, you know, it takes a long time for trees to grow here, so we're always thinking about that balance of sun and shade, and really the comfort of park users as we're thinking about the configuration of, you know, of the spaces. Okay, so let's see the top ones here. So dog park at 57%. Actually, passive picnic areas was 61, dog park 57, community gardens at 50%. And everything else in the, I think you all can see all these numbers, but you know, kind of ranging from 21 to 35 or so. Interesting. So large and small event space is pretty similar. More desire for the passive picnic areas than the rentable picnic areas. So that's helpful too. Great. Thanks, everyone. So now we're going to just go through kind of an overview of the concepts. Chelsea's going to go through an overview of the concepts real quickly before we open it up for Q&A to everybody.
Yeah, thanks, Meredith. So we do recognize that this is a lot of information to digest all at once. So we just wanted to share a quick overview of the major differences between each of these concepts. So the loops is a concept that supports adventure and play with cultural story loops and a looping circulation pattern. The baseball field remains in place, which gets slightly smaller with no fence, and the amphitheater remains in place. The ribbon is a concept that celebrates nature experiences along a flowing art path, creating a central art spine. And the baseball field is removed in this concept, while the amphitheater moves towards the entry for the rec center along Mariposa or along 11th. And then finally, the hub is a concept that supports community gathering around a central cultural core. The circulation pattern is that kind of central flowing path connecting north and south again. And the baseball field moves to the southeast corner of the park. It gets a little bigger and remains fenced, while the amphitheater in this concept moves to the center of the park to support that central cultural core. And with that, I think we had this open-ended question here related to each of the three concepts.
Yeah, so would love to hear from you all by putting any answers in chat, kind of, you know, which option starts to address culture in the most authentic way for you or to you. You know, this idea around the loops and how we could kind of tell a story, the ribbon through the kind of spine, and you know, whether that's elements, you know, educational signage or some sort of, you know, patterning or anything in the pavement. And then this idea, the third, again, this idea of the kind of hub and having that cultural core. I think as we move forward too, we want to hear more about, you know, how this could come to life. So, you know, we're still working on all this and taking input. So we're trying to hear from you all really what's resonating and what doesn't feel right, so we can take that feedback and move forward. So yes, stick any comments in chat if you have any. Otherwise, we can open this up in just a minute and take any questions. Okay, Elaine, you answered the rentable versus passive. I'm trying to keep up on all these great comments. I think, you know, Helen, I see your question about why moving the amphitheater. I think that, you know, where it's located today, it's tucked away. It lacks visibility, but it also, from a circulation standpoint, doesn't really, you know, it's not activated partially because of where it is in between kind of the parking and the pool. And I think that the concepts are exploring is an opportunity to actually make that more of a central feature and build other kind of elements around it. So it really is kind of part of a core, and just exploring the feedback there. And so that's really what we're getting at. It's really a way for us to have this kind of conversation about the likes and dislikes. Okay, let's do this. I'm gonna, how about we turn it, we can maybe stop the next slide, the Q&A slide, Chelsea. Okay, yeah, I'm missing, I think we've probably covered that. Let's leave these concepts maybe up for a minute. And I think what we could do now is open it up for questions from the group. I apologize if I missed your comment in chat. There was a lot coming through. So if there was a question you had and it didn't get answered, feel free to raise your hand. You should see that on the bottom, and we can just kind of go through, you know, open it up for Q&A now.
Hi, everyone. Tim has his hand up, so I'll go to him, and then Laura, I'll turn it over to the folks who are meeting at the rec center to make sure we get a chance to hear from you all. Tim, do you want to ask your question?
Hi there. Just looking for some explanation on what types of events you're envisioning happening at the amphitheater and/or event center, because I've been in the neighborhood for a while, and you know I haven't seen much use made out of it. I was just curious what the vision is for those spaces.
Yeah. See, Meredith, I saw you nodding. Did you want to jump in here?
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, Tim, we have, you know, I think it's more kind of community-based events and activities, right? That it's really, you know, within the neighborhood, but I think that it would also be great to hear from you all if there's like, we really would love to host these types of events, to be able to kind of design spaces and create spaces that could accommodate that. So whether that's, you know, neighborhood gatherings of sorts. I know there's other, you know, barbecue events and things that happen in the park, or whether that's, you know, movies in the park type events,
Yeah,
small
Meredith,
concerts, things like
one idea Alex just put in the chat is poetry readings from the youth at Art from Ashes. Something to use that kind of space. Jazz in the Park from Nolan.
That's perfect. Yeah. So we'll, as we kind of move forward, we'll think about those types of events. But here we don't want to pay a ton to rent either. So it is kind of finding that balance, I think, but you know, allowing it to be big, but not so that it would be an expensive place to rent. Hosted weddings and funeral receptions, concerts, community events. Yeah. And Helen, I think that's what I understand, is that there's a lot that's happened and want to make sure that we continue that, but maybe design for other, you know, events that and gatherings that may want to happen here in the future too.
Yeah. Laura, are there any questions you want to relay from the room? And then we'll go to Anna next.
Yes, we have one, except let me change the view. Okay.
Hello.
Do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure.
Hello.
I'm Randy Fernandez. My question has to do with the lighting concept. Are we keeping those historic old light posts, or is the intention to move to some more modern light fixtures to light up the park at night?
That's a great question. The specifics of the light design is something that will be resolved later. Right now, the historic light posts are actually being updated to be more energy efficient and brighter by Excel, who runs and owns those current light posts. And then I think we would be wanting to explore ways to add additional light into different areas of the park. Anna?
Hi. So I was actually one of the things I was going to ask about is light as well, but the other thing I was going to mention is it does feel a lot like concept 3. There's so much that you have to rent or reserve to utilize, and it all focuses around like if there's an event going on. And so I feel like the day-to-day use of the park will be hampered by that in quite a large scale, especially if the amphitheater's moved right into the middle. And it sounds like a lot of people feel very strongly about not moving it in the first place. But if it's moved into the center and then not, if there's not an event going on, I just worry that that's almost dead space that could be used for soccer or volleyball or whatever else is a more useful point of the park. Sorry.
Yeah, that's great feedback. Thank you.
Yeah, it's actually something, Anna, that we kind of contemplated as we were, working through these, that like it kind of, the balance of event versus everyday in concept 3 is a little bit more challenging just because of the spatial configuration. I think it also does really impact that open lawn area. So thanks for that comment.
Any other questions? I see a number in the room don't support moving the amphitheater as well in the rec center.
Felix, thanks for your comment. Blending the story walk with concept 2. So that's great. I'm hearing the preferences come together. Helen, I'm not sure what you're referring to. It says, what about a concept? I submitted ideas. I'm not aware of what that is. If you want to elaborate.
Oh, I see. Yeah, Helen, the feedback that you've provided is super helpful. We're hoping to get, through this meeting and additional outreach over the next month or so, just more feedback, sort of prompting people based on these 3 concepts. And then we'll work on a sort of 4th concept or refined version that we come back with in early summer. Laura?
Okay, we have one more person to speak. All right, switch spots.
Oh, thanks. Justin Rolfreni here. I like the conversation. It was someone else that I missed the name in the chat. We got, I think, a very good point about what the funding levels long-term would look like for maintenance. And the concern that some of the features, especially some of the more elaborate cultural and art installations, if they're not maintained, could just degrade and probably be worse than nothing. So I think, I mean, I like the sculpture and the cultural elements. And I would want ones either that could be funded and maintained, or ones that are kind of robust and durable and that would need maintenance if there isn't dedicated funding for that.
Yeah, thank you. That's a great point. Jenna, would you mind speaking a little bit to the funding sort of longer term?
Sure, I'd be happy to. And that's a great question. Maintenance is something that we are always considering as we're working on planning and design projects. We work really closely with the downtown operations team to make sure that everything that we're kind of putting in our concepts is maintainable. As it relates to art specifically, likely there would be kind of a 1% for public art coming out of this project from the construction budget. So we would be working with arts and venues, the city department, to kind of lead a community-based process for art selection. And they would also be taking the art into their collection and maintenance program. So while there's not specifically dedicated funding for this particular design project, we would be kind of fully integrating future improvements into our whole downtown maintenance program, if that makes sense. So it's a very valid question and something that we are going to be continuing to discuss both internally and with stakeholders, and really appreciate the question.
Any other questions you want to ask currently, and we'll always, oh, looks like we have one from Randy.
It's Randy again. Just one more question. Which will come first, the park or the 5280 loop?
That's a great question, Randy. That's kind of the chicken or the egg kind of question, but not really exactly. So I will say that we are working really closely with the Downtown Denver Partnership to make sure that we're kind of respecting the 5280 trail. We're kind of supporting the future installation of the 5280 trail. However, we won't be taking any funding out of this project to construct and design a portion of the 5280 trail. So I think very, very likely this project will be built first, and then additional improvements will be coming later from the 5280 trail.
Thanks, Jenna. Desiree, I see your question about the restrooms, but if you wouldn't mind just clarifying or elaborating more of what you're asking.
We just want to know, like, are you going to put more restrooms that we can use?
Or are they going to have continuous locks?
Or are they going to just stay locked forever? Hello?
That's a good point of feedback. It's introducing additional standalone restrooms apart from the ones at the rec center isn't something we're considering in these concepts, but we'll take that into account when we sort of refine the next stage. It's just to make sure I'm understanding you correctly, the desire would be to have additional publicly accessible restrooms in the park as like a separate structure.
Well, yeah, it's kind of a drag when we're out at the park and we have to run home to go pee.
Mm-hmm.
And I hate using those porta potties.
Yeah.
We were just chatting here about that. Sorry, we were just chatting about that with the rec center here. And if the rec center is open, people can come use the rec center bathrooms. We just, yes. The supervisor is nodding.
Great.
So.
The rec center bathrooms are open for use.
The rec center is not always open.
Right.
And it's not true. The rec center is, they're always oh, you can't use the bathroom here. I know.
Okay. We'll make sure staff knows.
Yes. Thank you for that input.
Thank you.
Oh my God.
Anna, did you have a question?
I've got a leaky valve.
Yeah, just one more question. Sorry.
No.
I was curious, just one of the things that you guys mentioned earlier was in the summer meeting that there would maybe be like a fourth plan. So is it going to be like you take all the feedback from the last meeting and this meeting and come up with a final, and then that's just what's been decided, or will there be another round of feedback? I'm just curious about the process. And sorry if I missed that earlier.
Oh, no worries. I'm glad you asked. So we'll take all of the input from this meeting and from the last phase, as you mentioned, and then additional feedback as we take these concepts around the community, and then develop what, we'll kind of refer to it as like a preferred plan. And that's what we'll present as a draft in the next public meeting. And then take that input, and then it will get documented as the final master plan.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
All right. Any additional questions people want to ask in this meeting? And then we're always available for questions after this meeting as well. But great. And then, so I think we'll just close with some information about next steps and how you can, if you know anyone that wasn't able to attend the meeting today, how you can kind of spread the word about how they can give their input. So we have the survey that's live. You can see the sort of flyer here that you'll see it at the rec center around the neighborhood. If you are interested in distributing information about the survey to any groups you're interested in, please feel free to reach out to Laura. We'll have the email up in a second, and we'd be happy to provide you with copies of this flyer. If Chelsea, you wouldn't mind just putting a link to the survey in the chat now for folks who want to fill it out. Even if you've participated in this meeting, you're very welcome to fill out the online survey. We'll ask some of the same questions, but also just have plenty of space for you to write out more comments and reactions that you have to these ideas. The next slide here has our contact information. So feel free to email me, Elaine, at elaine.limmer@denvergov.org with any questions or ways you want to participate in this process moving forward. And again, we really need your help in getting community input. We want to make sure we hear from as many people in the neighborhood as possible as we sort of gather input on these 3 ideas in order to merge them into a preferred direction. So please email Laura. Laura, if you want to wave, she's in the room at the rec center. Feel free to reach out to her with requests for flyers or for us to come attend one of your meetings or anything like that.
Elaine, there is one question about whether or not the presentation will be available.
Great question. So the presentation recording in English and Spanish, as well as the slides, will be posted on the Park Project website in the next few days, and will be available for anyone to watch. Great. Thank you so much, everyone.
Yeah, thanks so much for all your great feedback and joining us this evening. Stay warm.